After 6 to 7 years, it's finally here. One of the best third-person action games ever made is on PC. Malcolm here with an overview video for Bayonetta PC Edition. Now, it's been a while since Bayonetta came out. However, I've always said it's one of my favorite games of all time because it is absolutely fantastic. So if you're wondering for a mini review, we're mostly going to be talking about the port in this video, so we're not really going to talk about the quality of the game. The port is actually fairly decent, but if you're looking for a quick overview, basically it is a Spectical Fighter, and it is really, really good. It is extremely fun, extremely responsive. It has a little bit more weight than what we're used to in a lot of the modern games that we've seen coming out lately. It has a lot of weight to all of its movement and stuff like that, and I actually like it for a lot of its design elements, and I never felt like one time that I got hit never felt unfair, which is extremely rare for this genre. And it also has a nice, interesting story. It has a few different sort of mechanics that maybe people are going to like, and maybe this is where the caveat comes into play. It has a little bit of age to it. It is starting to show its age both graphically and mechanically. Some of the combos maybe are not as in-depth as we were used to in these style of games these days, and also it just looks a little bit outdated, and there's some sort of, I guess, classic adventure elements that are in the game that some people may not be a fan of. But for the most part, it is an absolutely fantastic game, and I strongly recommend it to people who like these sort of action games. It is just really, really fun, and it's a game that is held up extremely, extremely well, and it has a bunch of different weapons and stuff like that you unlock through the game, and yeah, it keeps it fresh throughout. It doesn't have a lot of replayability, though, so it is going to be like one of those things that you play through once. But how is the port? The port is actually really good. Like, it is actually a lot better than I ever thought that an older game like this would have ended up being. And this has happened a few times. A lot of games that I seem to love a lot end up getting really decent ports, which is actually fairly nice. Now, it's not a perfect port. It does have a lot of caveats. Now, let's go ahead and talk about those in the options here. Now, you can change the graphics options wherever you want in here. Now, one thing that kind of irks me a little bit is you can't rebind the gamepad controls. I mean, that's fine. The default controls work perfectly fine, but you can't rebind them, which is just unfortunate. Now, I could use like a third-party software or something like that if I wanted to kind of emulate it, but you just can't in-game. But you can turn on and off vibration, and that actually works perfectly fine as well. This is a port of the 360 version, I would assume, which was the superior version. The PS3 version was actually completely broken. Regardless, you can actually rebind the mouse and keyboard controls, and they do work perfectly fine. The movement and stuff like that feels weird to me, but I don't play these styles of games with the keyboard. And you can also double bind as well. And so basically, if you want two keys to do the same thing, you can set that. If you want, two keys to do the same exact thing, such as the punch and kick here, you can see that. This is on default right now, but yeah, you can rebind everything, which is actually super nice. Mouse sensitivity was a little bit strange for me. The mouse, if I go ahead and move the mouse on here, it has a big delay to it, which is really, really annoying. And that was kind of carried over into the movement, like in the movement of the camera as well. And so basically, if I wanted to fix that, I had to turn off VSync, but then the game tore like crazy, which was the first big sort of complaint that I found with the game, aside from the gamepad controls that you can't rebind, which really nobody's expecting that. You can't invert the camera. You can't invert the camera based on the device that you're using. You can switch between them. Like, I just took my hands off the gamepad and now I'm using the keyboard and mouse. And so, yeah, you can switch between them in even mid fights and everything like that, which is kind of nice, but you can't change your invert settings based on which one. I don't think a lot of people are going to care, but some people do. And you can also change your camera speed between those because that's also going to affect your mouse speed as well, which is kind of interesting. And then you also have your sound settings here. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting is they have a headphones mode still, which it didn't change a thing for me. I don't know why it's there. And one thing that's actually kind of interesting is it actually has Japanese voices as well as English. Now, you can only change it in the title menu, but you can actually switch between them at will if you want to. Also, tutorials and stuff like that, you can turn this all off. One thing that I don't remember from the original game, but I think it was there, was interface customization. So basically, they give you 3 different layouts, which I just used the default one because that's what I remember. And yeah, so it's got a lot of options here. And now in the graphics options, it has even more. Now, it has a little bit more than I would have expected. It would have been nice to have some sort of, I guess, different sort of quality effects, such as, the depth of field or the screen grain effect that we're going to see a little bit later in the cutscenes. It would have been nice to be able to like turn those off, but I think they're kind of ingrained in the way that the game was built, and so I don't think that's actually possible. But you get your output monitor. This is something that a lot of older games end up overlooking. This is basically if you use multiple monitors, which one to render to. I like seeing this. It also has resolution. Now, I have a 16:9 monitor, so I don't really use any of the resolution. Some people have reported that ultra wide has problems, but considering modern games have to be modified like heavily to even work on ultra wide, I don't understand why people expect a 6 to 7-year-old game to. But if you do run an ultra wide, just try and play it in window mode at a 16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratio. Aside from that, everyone else seems to be having no problems with that. Display mode, you have windowed, borderless, and full screen. It also has a nice little teller at the bottom for how much VRAM you're going to be using for your quality settings. It does have the presets low, medium, and high. I use custom, so I basically cranked everything up to absolute maximum. So you get anti-aliasing, MSAA. It is a DirectX 9 game. And then you have texture quality, NSO, shadow quality, and SSAO, which is actually defaulted to off. I have it on high on my current settings, but yeah, so that is off on any sort of setting. So if you want that on, go on to custom, HDR, and a VSync. Now, if you are playing the game in borderless window, it is obviously going to force a VSync, but if you want to use the mouse and keyboard, I strongly recommend turning off VSync and using something like a FreeSync monitor, something like that, to kind of get rid of the tearing, because it has a delay on the mouse and everything like that, which is super annoying. But with VSync off, I never noticed that. And obviously, there we go. So yeah, those are the options inside the port. Now, how does it perform? Well, it actually performs really, really well. I'm having no performance problems whatsoever. Some people have reported on certain hardware that basically it doesn't work, but that's going to happen with any sort of PC game. For me, the game runs at 60 FPS. It is kind of capped at 60 FPS, so you can't actually go above that. And cutscenes run at 30 FPS, which is fairly annoying, but at the same time, it's a cutscene. I'm not doing any sort of input, so I'm fine with that. It is the action gameplay that I'm worried about, and it actually performs extremely well. Like, it's just been solid 60 no matter what. Now, I do have a very strong system, and the recommended system is not necessarily high either. And so basically, I could just end up being brute forcing any poor optimization. But for the most part, it seems to run perfectly fine, and I've had no problems whatsoever. The one complaint I would have about it is that I really like the way that they did the loading screens. Here's the grain effect I was talking about. This is a cutscene, by the way. They throw on this sort of film effect. I would love to be able to turn this off, but I understand why they didn't allow that, because it's supposed to be like old film and everything like that. It's just a personal preference thing. It's part of the style of the game, so yeah. Anyways, here's one of the cutscene styles to where it shows them kind of 3D modeled, but still sitting there and stuff like that. It's a little bit strange. The effects are kind of, I don't know, old style, I guess. They don't have a lot of polish to them because it is an older style game. So like the kind of outline, you can see all the aliasing on it and stuff like that. And I mostly think that comes down to the fact that it's running at a high resolution and stuff like that. But yeah, the game has performed absolutely fantastic. The responsiveness, aside from the mouse, which that's really the only problem I've had with the game so far, is the mouse controls, and I'm using a gamepad, so it really doesn't affect me at all, is that it's just performed extremely, extremely well. And the graphics actually look a lot better than they did on console, and I don't know if that's because they increased the texture quality or if it's just because we have extra filtering. It's on a monitor that doesn't suck, and so basically those all might actually be what's affecting the graphics quality, but it looks beautiful in comparison to how it did back on console. And so, yeah, this is definitely the definitive version of the game. And while there are some problems, like I was saying, it is capped at 60 FPS, so it's not going to go higher than that. 60 FPS for me is sort of regarded as the standard that you want to aim for, so at least 60 FPS, so that's fine with me. The cutscenes being at 30 FPS somewhat bothers me because, you know, it is sort of a little bit jarring, especially when it does these sections to where it kind of jumps between the gameplay and everything like that, like really, really quickly. It can be a little bit jarring when the frame rate just kind of goes over. At least it makes it easy to tell when you're actually playing the game because it's like, oh, it's looking smooth now. That means I have full control. Yay! And so, yeah, that's just kind of one thing. But for an older game, the port is actually really, really good, and I strongly recommend it to people who like Spectical Fighters. It's just really, really good. And I'm not playing particularly well right now because I'm just like trying to talk and everything like that and think of points while playing. But yeah, it is a little bit difficult as well. It's Platinum Games, so basically they like to make really kind of challenging fighters and stuff like that, and this is one of their best pieces of work ever. It's just absolutely fantastic and has very, very few problems in it. And yeah, so yeah, I'm really glad this is a good port. I really hope that this ends up doing really, really well. It's at the top of the sale charts on Steam right now, which means that yes, it is performing really, really well. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited. I really hope they can find a way to bring us the second game, and maybe future Bayonetta games will be on PC. And I'm just really, really happy that they were able to sort of solidify Bayonetta's kind of future in the PC market, because the 360 is dead. Like, after this next generation, it's just not going to be even anything talked about anymore. And it's kind of unfortunate because there's a lot of older great games that are just kind of lost in the days of old consoles, and then, you know, we get games that come back to PC and it's like, oh, they have a resurgence and people who love the game are able to play it again, and you're able to show it to new markets and stuff like that, and the PC market just lasts forever. And so, yeah, it's kind of nice. And also, I have a trumpet that turns into a shotgun. The game is a bit ridiculous as well, but yeah, it's a really good game. I'm really, really happy to be playing it again. I hook it up at 360 every once in a while to end up playing it, and this looks just a million times better. And the 360 had its own sort of anti-aliasing that was kind of built into it, and so basically the anti-aliasing was not particularly great. I think it ran at 30 FPS. I can't really remember. I don't really pay attention to FPS when I end up playing on console because it's just one of those things I know isn't going to be good. But yeah, this is just... it's just fantastic. I'm just really, really excited. So yeah, if you're looking at the Bayonetta PC port and wondering if you should end up picking it up, I recommend it. Obviously, it's not going to be a game for everyone. Bayonetta is very sexualized. There's a lot of gore. It's not for the faint of heart. And yeah, it's a really good game. So I'm really excited it's here. I really hope that we get more games from Platinum on PC, and it's really exciting to see that they're doing such a good job, even with older games. It just seems like, why wasn't this on PC before? But I'm kind of glad it waited, because now we get a PC edition that's going to last forever and actually be really, really good, because this is a really good port. So yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this one. If you're looking forward to a review of Bayonetta, I may do one, I may not. Most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of a thoughts video rather than a full review, because basically the game is really, really old. There are reviews everywhere. The game is exactly the same as it was on console. There's nothing really added to it, nothing really taken away. It's Bayonetta on PC, and it's just, yeah. It looks a lot better. This is the definitive edition. It runs better. It looks better. It controls better. It's just, everything is better about it. If you want to use mouse and keyboard, there might be some problems, and not everyone's going to experience those, but I definitely did. So do be aware of that. But yeah, it's really good, and I'm excited to play more of it. I'm probably going to do a full playthrough, like, tonight. I don't remember how long this game is, because I never played through the entire game. It's fairly long. I'm like, let's say 3 or 4 hours in, and I'm at like 5%. So yeah, it's got some good replayability. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, as I said, and I will see you guys in the next video. Wait, I missed resources. No!